Hey, Stevie Taylor here. Welcome to episode 44 of the Gig Life podcast. Thanks for joining me today. I've got another cracker of an episode for you in master drummer David Jones. So I hope you can stick around for that. Stick. You see what I did there? Drumstick, drummer, never mind. Look, if you really dig the show, please subscribe and please share. Get the word out there. If you want to check out our social media pages, we've got a page on Instagram and Facebook. Just cruise over there and type in the Gig Life podcast into the search bars there. And look, you know what to do after that. If you want to contact me, you can reach me on those social media pages also. And lastly, if you have something you want to advertise on the show, send me an email, thegiglifepodcast@gmail.com, and I'll see what I can do. Now, are you ready? My guest today is master drummer David Jones. David's brilliant career of over 45 years spans all types of music, playing with some of the greatest musicians in every style, from John Farnham to James Morrison, Dragon to Dame Kitty Takanawa, Don McLean to John Denver, Tate Miller-Heidke to Tommy Emmanuel, the WDR Big Band to John Williams, Crossfire and the legendary Pyramid. But what sets David apart from the others is his solo drum compositions, approach, and solo performances. I'd known of David since I moved to Australia in the late 90s. His face was all over the local drum magazines, pictures of him in the drum shops. He just seemed to be everywhere. A while back, a good friend of the podcast, Sam McNally, contacted me and said, look, David was coming to town to do a gig with him and Tommy Emmanuel, and that we should try and meet up and have a chat because, you know, it would really be something special. So Sam made the introduction via email. We started chatting, we set it up, and yeah, we made it happen. So I'm so glad it happened. We met at an outdoor coffee shop in the main street of Marrickville. So plenty of people around, traffic going by, planes overhead. So I do apologise for the noise. I had to use a few of my audio tricks to quieten some of the noise down at times, especially the planes. But look, it came out great and I'm wrapped with it. I hope you take away as much from this chat as I did. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for the one, the only, the master, David Jones. Cheers. Well, I think we're rolling.
Wonderful.
David Jones. Welcome,
Stevie.
Welcome to the Gig Life podcast.
Oh, it's great to be here, mate.
Yeah,
Thank you.
mate. Yeah, this sort of came together quite quickly, didn't it?
Very quickly, and a bit of synchronicity going on.
Absolutely, and thanks to our friend Sam McNally.
Yeah, and just in Sydney for the day.
Yep.
So play with Tommy, and he's Tommy Emmanuel is doing his workshop at Lazy Bones today, and yeah, it's a beautifully unusual situation, you know. And Sam thought, gee, let's get together because the three of us haven't played since 1981.
Right. Right.
With the John Farnham Band.
I think I saw a video of, I think Sam put something up on his
Hold
Instagram.
the Line, I think.
Was it? Yeah, right.
Yeah. Going for it. It was an amazing band, yeah. It was the first rock band that John Farnham had. Right. Because he was Johnny Farnham, a variety artist for many years, and he really wanted to get into that scene of and doing what he does best, which is really going for it. I mean, he's 100% every performance. Yep. I remember that really distinctly. Yep. And so we were the band before Whispering Jack, you know, when it really went to another level.
Before it took off.
But still, even at that stage, it was pretty amazing what we were doing, you know. Sometimes 23 days straight, you know, through Queensland. I remember some of the tours. It was, you know, we had roadies and it was quite well organised. It was big gigs, and then some were small because John was still, you know, starting something fresh. But yeah, great to be back. I lived in Sydney for 14 years, so it's always another home, homecoming when I come here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what were those years you were living here?
That was from 1985.
Okay.
And I'd had a very huge life change, and I needed to change everything. And so I'm from Melbourne. My hometown's Melbourne. I was born in Richmond, city lad. So the change to Sydney was a very good timing, because for years and years and years I had many offers to come to Sydney to join different bands, and when I arrived in Sydney it was pretty loose. I'd actually all of a sudden just left Melbourne, and didn't really tell anyone because I was in such a changed state of mind, It was like a really, really huge
Was this when you started getting into meditation?
Yeah, it was,
Right.
And I really needed it, Steve.
So you needed a complete breakaway?
Yeah, I did, Because I was really at the stage where, starting early days in my career, I'd had a full career up to age 26, Pretty much done everything possible in Australia, and Melbourne was similar to Sydney at that stage. And so basically, I put my mind to various things like I want to be in the jazz sort of field, I want to be in the rock sort of thing, I want to do television, I want to do jingles and sessions. So I was doing that from age 18, age 14. I was playing 3 nights a week when I was 14, gigs at age 12. So I was very, very fortunate. And I sort of burnt out, I'd really burnt out, and also hit the alcohol really strongly. Because what was happening for me was there was not a strong spiritual base in my life. Even though I was brought up in Catholic religion and loved it, had really beautiful experiences, I began searching for something that was more suited to me, because a lot of the answers I couldn't find, And so it was concurrent with my music making too, because I was starting to get a little bit lost with that too. So even I would say from early teens I was really searching in so many ways. And so the music and meditation really came together around age 26, moved to Sydney, and it was the coming together of a perception of where music comes from. And more than perception, I feel it's the truth. It comes from silence first, It comes from a very deep stillness.
Yep.
Because is that okay?
Yeah.
Like with a painter, generally they start with a blank canvas, And so the potential on that blank canvas, usually white canvas, any possible amount of patterns and colours and textures can happen in that space, Yep. So you always start with something blank. And same with music. We do start from silence first. And what I mean by silence is we never have true silence. There's always sound. And there's the sound of our own mind. We're always thinking. But to still that to whatever degree creates a big space where that silence or space, for me, even from early days and especially it deepens as I go along. From that space, there's all potential sounds, harmonies, melodies, rhythms, and it just creates a feeling that you have all the time in the world as well.
Right.
Rather than starting from a messy mind and very fast mind and almost a bit frantic, and that's how I probably was for quite a few years. It was always good energy, it's always up energy, but a bit too frantic, working on nervous energy. And so the drink made a lot of sense. I was trying to maintain a high all the time, which is not realistic. But, the euphoria and the amazing states that we can reach in music, as you know, you whether we're listening or playing, especially playing and connecting with other people, it just takes you to this other state that sometimes words are not adequate for what that is. And so I was really searching for making that more consistent. And I do remember something that put me on track, or at least put me into a feeling of there's something there that I haven't found yet. It was playing with Peter Couples.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Couples of
Vocalist,
Stylus, yeah. He's an incredible singer and songwriter and guitarist, conga player as well. And he had his own, solo bands. And I remember distinctly, I was about 19 years of age, and we were playing at the Hatters Castle. It was on the corner of Punt Road, Toorak Road, a pub that's still there, but it's a different name now. It was a great gig. It was a fantastic gig. And I'm pretty sure it was a regular Friday or something. Anyway, I remember one night something quite special happened. And it put me on the alert for what is this state, because it was quite dramatic. It was the end of 3 sets, the end of the night, and it was one of those really fast tunes. It was full on, going for it. And then a whole lot of horn players came down to have a blow at the end of the night. So this tune kept going and going and going, and another saxophone player would come up and a trumpet player. It just kept going for ages, and I thought, whoa, I hope my body keeps going, because I've stopped.
Yeah, right.
I was looking down, seeing my hands all frantic and feet going and everything, just watching it.
You were drinking?
Not that night.
Not that, right?
Not so much like that night.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we're sitting outside a cafe on the main street of Marrickville.
Just around from Lazybones.
Just around the corner from Lazybones, so excuse the plane noises and the people and traffic. But it's all good.
It's all good. It's all life going on.
It's very, very comfortable.
Yeah. In the shade under a nice umbrella.
Yeah, coffee's good too.
Coffee's great.
Yeah.
And so that night, I kept playing, but I was observing everything from a distance. But it was quite dramatic. Right. It wasn't just a concept of being at a distance.
Yep.
I was literally above my body.
Yep.
As sometimes it's described like a near-death experience or something, that you're really, really distant to everything, watching from above somehow. It's really amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, you couldn't sustain that state. It's like very, dramatic. Anyway, so I was looking down and thinking, I hope my body keeps going. I've stopped.
Right.
I'm just watching it all go. And then maybe it was a minute. Who knows how long it was. It felt like eternity in a good way. It was so blissful, so euphoric. And then thrust down into the body, here I come, and oh, wow, and then having to deal with back here again. What was that?
Wow.
And so every so often there were little signposts along the way of that state.
After?
Yeah. But always a happy accident.
Right.
Nothing I could predict, nothing that was consistent. So I was on the lookout. I was really searching, and so when I did find, it was actually through Sam, who we've been just talking about, Sam McNally, dear friend from many, many years, great musician, and he came to my place at around 1984, and he was different. I thought, Sam, what's going on? Because I thought, whatever he's on, I want some of it.
Yeah, right.
It was so peaceful.
Right.
And he was just sitting very present with me, because with great respect to my friend, like me, he was quite frantic in the early days, just going from, even visiting was frantic,
Right.
Go and tick off a few boxes of just seeing people. But he was there and he was present and very peaceful, calm, and it was so attractive. He said, I've just been doing this meditation for 3 months or so. I said, well, I was showing. He said, would you like to go to the centre tonight? It was all spontaneous. I said, yeah. So from there, I went to a meditation centre in Fitzroy in Melbourne, and lots of people dressed in white. Looked a bit weird to me, but the vibe was like, oh my goodness, I'm home. This is, and then sat in a room with my partner at the time, Debbie, and we just asking questions of a man who used to go to a school with Sam, actually. He was living in the centre.
Yep.
And he was so sweet. He was so wonderful. And every question I asked, it was just a simple, very clear answer. And I thought, this is fantastic. This is what I've been searching for, So many answers.
Right.
And simple. Very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'd got very complex in my thinking. And even the books I was reading.
It's fine.
That's okay.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I mean, these are
more directional mics.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. They're dynamic mics. They're not.
Yeah. So for me, it was really deep inside the core of me. I found what I was looking for, and I recognised it.
Yep.
And so that's where a lot of change happened. But musically, what happened for me was I wasn't hearing. I know you'll understand this, in a feeling way. I wasn't hearing really loud and abrasive sounds anymore. I really wanted to explore very subtle, not just gentle, but still powerful, but in a different way.
Yep.
Coming from that stillness, it really changed my music making, and it was revelation after revelation of even one brush stroke, how much music can be in that, So I think it just brought me back to reset, reset. What is sound? What does sound do? How does vibration, your intention carry through sounds? How does that work? And rather than being a study, like a scientific study, I was experiencing it.
Right.
Yeah, it was like, oh my goodness, this is profound. Now I'm sort of tapping into ancient cultures, in a vibrational way, even without studying it. I was feeling, this is where music comes from. It's communication of the soul, It's like something very, very much deeper than I ever thought about. But I felt there was something I was missing.
Right.
And it absolutely, and it still continues after 35 years, continues to develop the expression and the way of connecting and the embracing now of everything. Even the big sounds I love dynamics. I love playing really strongly. I'm sure we'll be playing pretty strongly today.
Yeah.
So it's not even about dynamics and playing softly, in a meditative way, although I love that too. But, for me, music is all about spectrum.
Yeah, I understand.
So, and many different types of spectrum. So from very soft to very loud, very heavy to very light, gossamer sort of like harmonics to really deep sounds, and everything in between. So can have all the fast to slow. So I just love I suppose I've really developed, without studying orchestral music, I've really developed an orchestral approach to music.
Right.
Even if it's a small group, even if it's solo concerts that I do, and which, in coming back in Sydney in May. It's about a month away, or no, it's only a few weeks. Coming to play a solo concert, but 2 sets.
Right.
Solo drum music, at 505, venue 505, that club. Have you been there? Yeah.
I know where it is.
Yeah.
So that show that you're putting on, the songs that you're playing, are they formed compositions, or you just have a framework?
That's a good question. It is a framework.
Yeah.
And they tend to come out similarly, because each show that I put together is usually about 3 months of development.
Okay.
If not every day, every second day, for hours, even really refining the setup as well, and the tuning.
I've got that down to ask you about your tuning.
Yeah.
Yep.
So with the drums, usually we don't tune to notes, to pitch, but when you do, which I've done in studio work sometimes, actually tuning to the track. Yep. Intuitively, there's a tonic there, a main note, and there you can have some harmonies off that. So with the drums, if it's actually in tune with the track, there's a sonority there. There's this beautiful resonance that doesn't happen otherwise. Yep. It'll still sound great, according to the engineer and the mixing and all that. But when it's actually in the pitch, there's something really magical that can happen. And so when I'm doing solo concerts, it's that approach, not tuning for different tracks, but pieces. But I have a singing bowl, a Tibetan singing bowl, that actually when you rub it, it's A440. It's spot on.
Right.
I didn't realise when I first bought it. I was just buying it for the incredible resonance and harmonics. So I tune my 12-inch tom to that. And then a fourth or fifth is next to that is a smaller drum, which is the 10. Yep. And that's either an E or a D. And then I've got a little G or F sharp tom up the top, depending. Because sometimes you find, because of the head, if it gets older, it might sit even a semitone lower or something.
Right.
But even with the F or the G, I'm still in A minor. So, so the whole thing becomes A minor. But and then I've got a resonating bell that's actually a G bell. I've got a little Tibetan tingshas, they're called, little bell that hangs off my cymbal stand. Beautiful harmonic, it's just this incredible note, and that's an A. So I've got an F sharp cowbell as well.
Yep. What about the kalimba? What is that in a? Is that to a note?
Tuned as well. Yeah, right. So that's a G major scale.
Okay.
Yeah, and it goes left to right rather than like piano goes left to right or right to left.
Yep.
But this is alternating left to right.
Yep.
So low, da 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 da, and your fingers are going outwards.
Yep.
Rather than one way.
I was listening to that. You posted something on your Instagram, probably 2 or 3 videos ago, and you're playing the show, and I think the cello bass player is sitting next to you, and you're playing on the kalimba, and then you bring the drums in, and then something with your hand. You make this. Right. Oh man, I must have watched that 50 times.
That's beautiful.
It was great.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, Stevie.
Really cool.
Well, what you can do, that sound, almost like a whale sound, is just a little bit of moisture on your second finger, thumb behind the second finger, and you just get it to vibrate across the head. With that little bit of moisture, just a tiny bit of pressure, you get a harmonic. Right. And so the whole drum sings.
Was that on the floor tom or your
floor tom.
Yeah, I couldn't quite see where your hand was. Yeah.
And you can achieve that effect also with, the bouncy balls you get in a supermarket for parties.
Yeah. Here they come.
Here they come.
That crossover was brought to you by Jetstar.
Yes, the other way to achieve this similar effects, or even more dramatic, is the bouncy balls, which are the super ball. They're very high bounce. And just a little bit of a skewer through it. You've got to be careful where you pierce the ball, because it can split. Yep. But if you have that on a stick, on the skewer, and run it across the drum, it can sound like not only whales, it can sound very deep, like a bowed bass, like bowing an acoustic bass. Right. And if you're very, very even and slow with it, you'll get notes, it'll actually sound like a chord.
Is that the same ball and skewer that you had attached to your look like blue tack to your cymbal?
Yeah.
And then you're hitting and it's when your cymbals...
Yeah. Thank you. You've done a bit of research there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love the whole notion of activation. And for piano players, sometimes they call it prepared piano, so they have a whole lot of things inside the piano to activate, jingle things and jangle and create other harmonics and really interesting sounds and percussive sounds as well. Yep. Same with drums. You can, which I think has become a little bit more fashionable now in the last sort of 4 to 5 years. I've seen this happen, where people have got shells on the snare, or not just a wallet or something. But other little sound source things. And the not dish mops, the dishcloths, the tape. What do you call it?
Just the Chuck's wipes. Thing.
That's become real, like the Ringo Starr sort of drum sound, with the cloths all over the drums. Yep. And so, if you get into other things where there can be activation or generation of lots of other notes, that starts to get really interesting for me, at least, anyway. Because with one stroke of the brush or the stick or the hand, then if it's that bouncing ball or a brush hanging off, with a bit of blue tack off the rim, for one activation you can get 3 or 4 or even a few, so it's got this sort of almost electronic effect.
Yeah, right.
Or and I'm only hitting once, striking once, but I'm getting 4 or 2.
That's awesome. That's brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah. One other video I saw, I think you had 6 brushes.
Oh, wow.
Playing around with that one.
Wow,
your hand is literally going like this, bouncing. Obviously you can't see me.
Yeah.
My fingers are bouncing up and down, and you're just hitting each brush, and they're all vibrating at different times,
rates.
and then you basically let it go, and it's
doing its thing.
Doing its thing. Yeah.
Cool. The kitchen for a drummer is a special place.
Because it's the whole pots and pans thing, isn't it? That's where it all started.
It is.
Little did we know. there's all this other stuff, you know.
Because,
my daughter, she likes to pull out things like skewers and not so much putting the ball on the end, but we might experiment with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. She likes pulling out like implements like that and making different sounds, and yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful, and I think it's one of the things for a human being that's such a creative enjoyment.
Yep.
I'd say an enjoyment. I was going to say endeavour, but it's not endeavouring at all. It's just enjoying the magic and mystery of sounds, and percussion particularly. They're just worlds within worlds, and not just percussion. I mean, you have even one string attached to something.
Yep.
And if it resonates, then, even you rub a band on a
Yep.
on a little plastic, tube if you're taking some nuts to work or something,
Yep.
There are sounds everywhere. And I probably got into it a little too much at one point. I was so obsessed.
Right.
I'm thinking in my late teens into early 20s, in a good way, obsessed, but
right.
I had to calm down as well, and so I just note things now, whether sometimes recording it on my Zoom or on my phone. Nature sounds too.
Right.
And particularly nature sounds. They're like orchestral
right.
symphonies, aren't they?
Hang on, what's that? I've got something written here. Remember the name of the place. Oh, you're playing the Hall's Gap fence.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's
that
right.
was brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah. So basically what it is, people, is there's this looked like a stainless steel railing, didn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Around this lookout.
Yep.
And you're just playing the individual poles in between, and it sounds like you got the compression cranked right up on you.
Yeah,
because you can hear your feet shuffling along the ground.
Yeah, that's right. It was all from the phone, so it just caught everything somehow. And sometimes you're walking along even a railing on a stairwell.
Yeah. So you're not going to bother us sitting there? Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. No, you're not going to bother us at all. Okay.
So you're famous now.
You're famous now.
Radio. So sometimes you're even walking up a stairwell and you touch one of the stair railings, and there'll be pitch. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm always really intrigued with that. And so when we were at Hall's Gap, each one of those
is all different.
Different pitch.
And it looked like
fantastic.
Looked like they were different lengths too.
Different lengths, yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like the crystal glasses with the different levels of water in it.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Love all that.
So when do you think of this stuff when you're meditating?
That's a good question too.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful
question. You've got that.
Yeah.
You've got no noise. So,
yeah.
I don't meditate myself, and it's something that I'm certainly interested in, because going back to what you were saying, life's crazy, so much going on, and
so many layers.
And I struggle to kind of calm down, I guess.
Sure.
Same sort of thing. So.
Sure, and we all need our own strategies, that work.
Yep.
And especially like we were talking about before, if we can stay away from, this is for our listeners, I'm just wanting to share, if we can stay away from any chemical intervention. I mean, we're having coffee now because we like coffee.
Yeah.
And it's been an early morning. As well. Right, one coffee a day. I think I used to have about 7 or 8 a day,
right.
And wondered why I got palpitations, That was, and maybe one to get up in the morning and before a 10 o'clock session,
yep.
Recording session, another coffee, just to get going.
That's me, man.
But eventually, I think we just gradually, or sometimes it's suddenly, realise, maybe I don't need as much of this. Maybe it's something to do with changing my thinking.
Yep.
And allowing some spaces,
Right.
Because I have a little saying for myself. It's very, very simple, Stevie, and I know you'll relate to this, that if we're trying to create some time, it'll never happen. Even for a holiday, when's that going to happen? Unless I actually determine very strongly, right, that weekend I'm going away. I'm not going to put the phone on, and maybe once a day just to check if there's an emergency. But, if you're in an area where there's no coverage, sometimes it's liberation.
Yep.
But, unless we determine that this is my time, then it's not going to happen. So the same with every day. We need just what's called me time, just something, even if it's 5 minutes.
Yep.
But I would suggest, it's better if it's 10 or 15 or even half an hour.
Yep.
It's just your own time just to sit, ponder, think about things in a really gentle, methodical way, you know. It's called reflection, or you could call it contemplation, you could just, it's thinking, you know, but thinking in a much more positive way, away from all the activity.
Yeah.
And then we get a different perspective. And then if we bring some spiritual thoughts into it, and I'm saying the word spiritual rather than religious. You know?
Understand.
Yeah, I mean, religions are very, very beautiful in their essence, but they've really grown away as like branches of a tree. It's in the twigs now. It's very diluted. And some are keeping the original essence, and that's very beautiful. But we need to find that for ourselves too, the original essence of spirituality. And so, you know, just bringing a spiritual thought into your mind in that quiet time that we create, we don't wait for that, then that can actually change things. I know if I got a bit upset about, you know, even after 35 years, I still get irritated by things, you know, sometimes angry, but nowhere near what was happening in the past, you know. And I just watch it now, I think, oh, okay, what's this about? Where did I sort of get upset about that sort of situation? And then I have a whole line of thoughts, you know, to help myself through that, almost, you know, talk myself through it. And then having a bit of space, then I get to another level where I'm actually looking down as an observer into that situation, almost like rehearsing, and you know, like an actor. Well, what's a better thing to say next time? You know, okay, I made a mistake there. That's okay. I'll forgive myself. So whatever the situation, I get another view on it, like a much higher view, you know, almost like the higher self looking on. And so that every day, I feel, for every human being is essential, you know, in whatever form it takes. But it's thinking in a beautiful way, you know, in a really spiritual way. And so the saying that I've had for many years is, don't wait, create.
Yeah, good one.
Just create the time for yourself, you know.
Yeah.
Usually earlier in the morning is good before things start.
Yeah.
Or late at night, you know, as musicians we know that. Sometimes you get home after a gig and there's this beautiful, sublime quietness and you think, oh, this is so wonderful. And you're so tired by that stage, but you don't want it to end. You know, you think, oh, I better go to bed sometime before the sun comes up again. Yeah, it's so lovely. It's so attractive in that state. And, you know, if there is some work to be done at that point, you know, in the middle of the night, it's a very clear thing because there's no distraction unless I create the distraction. Right. So the early morning or very mid of the night, very beautiful time for creation, you know. Creative thinking, new thinking, very different thinking. Inspirations can pop up from the subconscious because of less distraction. You know? Yeah. So I'm always on the word lookout, you know, comes up, but I'm on the alert for that, you know, to create that. And I've just, for many years now, love early morning meditation. It's nothing like it. And again, rather than being a religion or an obligation, you know, religion does mean way of life. So it's become way of life for me that, you know, I build that into my lessons too. You know, every lesson starts with breathing. Right. Even if someone's not so receptive to meditation, and I understand that, but at least we can breathe together. You know, and for rehearsing, for concerts, for recording. Could I have another soy latte? Yes, thank you. Yeah, no sugar.
I'll have a small cappuccino. Yeah, thank you.
And what would you like?
Soy, 2 sugars, thanks.
Our listeners, what would you like now?
Yeah. No, that's great. Now, where did music all start for you? Let's roll right back.
Wow.
Right to the beginning.
Yeah.
Musical family at all?
There's not a family history. You know, it's not in the genealogical line. Although I think the arts in different forms have been there. I was very inspired by one of my uncles on my father's side. He was a sign writer. And I thought I was going to become a sign writer because I was into drawing. Not so much painting. Well, it became like painting later, but you know, there's Derwent pencils, you know, all the colours. I used to love those, just being able to shade things differently. And so I was totally into drawing, as my brother Kevin is too. I'm not so much doing it now, but it became music, if that makes sense. It became patterns, colour, texture in drumming. Right. So it was the pots and pans came out, and there was a bit more seriousness than, I think most children play with sounds.
So there was that early
methodical, yeah.
Yeah, instead of just having a whack and doing a beat.
Yeah, there was something going on.
There was something going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Experimenting with sounds, pots and pans and knitting needles on the couch, and we had one of those old Bakelite stands, light that had a little ring where it was a really interesting sort of design, and it had a bell sound on it.
Right.
So I was always looking for really special, unusual sounds, playing grooves, but also the sounds just took me into some other space, right from early. So somehow the drawing became music, and there was a lot of music in my brother and my sister and myself, in the family then, but not historically. So it's very fascinating to see that, wow, I wonder where this came from. It's in the soul, it's deeper in the soul that had to emerge. It felt like that.
What age was this?
Oh, this is from probably age 10 or 11, the drumming.
Later on.
So I've got just 2 little bongos first.
Yep.
Bongo set. So I'd be pitch bending already, trying to get as many sounds as possible, just with my hands. Maybe I had sticks. Maybe I don't think brushes at that point, and then a snare drum, just a little basic snare drum with a tiny little stand off the snare stand with a little cymbal.
Yep.
So I'd nod my head for when my brother or sister, because I was the eldest, I could do this. I say now, so they could turn it on or off. So for the tom-tom sounds.
That's great.
And so I was very fortunate because from very early age, I remember playing at the end of school dance for much older kids, playing along to records, but in the school hall, So I was already performing from a very young age, and the buzz of that was just tremendous. This young kid playing for the older kids at school, it was a big thing, And then playing for dancing school concerts, so I'm pretty sure I was gigging, even if I wasn't paid gigging, from about age 11, 12, And so I was playing 3 nights a week when I was 14 at the Bridge Hotel in Richmond, which was just around from Channel 9, the old Channel 9 TV station. And one of the members of the band, David Langdon, was a copyist. He was doing the arrangement copying for the charts. It was hand copied. And so I sort of studied that, and I thought, gee, that'd be a good thing to have on the side, if the drumming is going through tough times or whatever. Because I knew I was going to be a drummer. It was pretty obvious by that stage. So I just left school when I was 17. I was already gigging. Very fortunate, And so the copying, that's become part of how I write my music sheets. I do it by hand.
You still do it by hand?
Yeah, with lots of little flourishes and very artistic. So I'm sure the art has come out that way as well,
For sure.
I'm just putting that 2 and 2 together now. Isn't that interesting?
It is,
It comes out in different ways,
Sure.
And so I was very, again, fortunate because my reputation spread very quickly that there's this young drummer through Billy Hyde's. The old Billy Hyde's store, the original one, was underneath Billy Hyde's house in Flemington. It was in the basement, kind of garage thing. There was teaching there, and they were selling drums, and I think my dad just got me to play for Billy Hyde, and I was about 12. He said, oh, okay, he looks like he's ready for gigs. And Mike Lynch, who was the head sales guy there, really lovely guy as well. Billy was beautiful, beautiful man and an incredible drummer. And Mike Lynch also, he was very helpful. I'd just get these calls every weekend to come and fill in for someone. Because there's so many gigs around then. If some drummer was sick, and they might have been in their 30s or 40s, and I'm turning up a 12-year-old playing and with no rehearsal. So it just developed such an ability to listen and hear things as it was happening.
Were you having any lessons for technique and stuff like that?
No, not at that stage.
Okay.
No, I picked up a lot by myself. I had lessons later with Garth Thompson, really great drummer, in The Strangers. There was a great pop band that had big hits in Australia in the 60s. Beautiful teacher. He's still teaching, and I'm not sure if he's playing as much, but wonderful man. I know I take a lot from his teaching method and his respect for everyone. He would call them by name a lot. But when you're being called by your name really respectfully, like David, come in. Now, what have you been practicing? You know, it was just a deep equals, you know, a feeling of equals. And I think, wow, you know, this experienced drummer treating me, and I was only 15.
I had the same type of teacher, Lance Phillip in New Zealand.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
Exactly the same.
On
a level.
It's so empowering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you feel that's mentoring. I feel rather than just teaching, it's really helping someone get to another level of their life and their playing as well, and through the playing. So, yeah, Garth Thompson, fantastic teacher, beautiful man, great drummer. And so I was about a year and a half with him. I had taken some other lessons, but they were not worth much at all. You know, with great respect, I wasn't shown much.
Yeah, right.
But it was a good contrast to have as well later when I became a teacher of how not to do things, especially having a whole group of drummers on pads in one room, you know, all at different levels. It just wasn't working, you know, without naming the music school. But, you know, it was just not really happening at all. But with Garth, he'd taken a lot of things from Graham Morgan. Graham was the first... Australian drummer, and he's of course Melbourne drummer icon. He's an icon of drumming in our history, and to this day, he was going across, probably the first person from Australia going across and studying with Jim Chapin, and with Murray Spivak, and a lot of the legends of drumming technique and drumming concepts. And Garth had taken some things from him in that way. So. He passed on some of that, and also he had the reel-to-reel in the room, recorder, but playing with headphones to, let's say, Blood, Sweat and Tears and Chicago and all this great stuff with charts. I'd already started reading charts and doing floor shows and things, and with, again, no rehearsal. But I knew I had to get my reading to another level, and Garth really helped with that as well, and also another whole set of concepts with polyrhythms too. Yeah, that Graham and Garth and only a few others, you know, in Australia were really onto at that time. So I was, again, greatly fortunate. And so then I was off myself and teaching, actually teaching at that same place underneath Billy Hyde's house.
Right. At what age?
About 18, 17.
Wow, great.
Yeah, and teaching people much older than myself. So it's I was given a lot of opportunities, and I created them as well. And because sometimes we say, "Oh, wow, that's so lucky," but I was creating my luck.
You've got to know what you're doing.
Exactly. And you practice.
They say right place, right time, but I mean,
that's that too.
There's a part of that, but you've also got to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
when you're there,
that's right. Yeah. There's a natural gift, and really, sometimes I was given a lovely title of radar, you know, from MASH.
Yeah.
Radar, because I always had the radar up, and I looked a bit like a radar with his glasses. But the radar was up with, like, listening.
Yeah, right.
You know, it was a beautiful compliment, you know, that I was always listening to blend and to play the right grooves for things, and recording a lot from age 18 or 17, really. Jingles, film sessions. There's probably about a 4 or 5 year period. It was a golden period, just the end of that golden period of session work.
Yeah.
I was, again, very lucky because, oh my goodness, I played so many different sessions and different styles with click track, sometimes without click track.
Yep.
You know, the early days, you might have heard these stories where if it was 29 seconds ad, they'd already timed it out pretty much, but without a click, the drummer would have to bring it in at that time. So, and you get really good at it. You know, they'd say, "Oh, that's a little bit over. That's about 30.5. Can you bring it back to 20? We need it at 29." And so you just pull back your tempo, just that tiny bit, and just land it. It was so satisfying being able to do things like that and very quickly. Yeah. So sometimes it was 2 and 3 sessions a day. Yeah. Where you might do one a month now. Right. and I'm not speaking begrudgingly.
No,
it's just a different scene.
Different
scene.
The way it is, yeah.
There are other great things happening now.
Of course, yeah.
And it's a very different environment, musical environment. The world's different.
Sure.
Yeah, but I remember learning so much in sessions. Every time I did a session, I'd come away with another heightened perception of time and hearing yourself back too. You know, it's like being under the microscope. And every little tiny nuance is amplified to a great degree. And we used to call it the cringe button sometimes if they'd just solo the bass drum. Like, okay, I've got to work on that one. It's a little bit ahead of the title.
Yeah, for sure. Brilliant. Yeah.
So, yeah, really, really special days, and no less now. Special in different ways.
Sure.
Much, much deeper now.
Yeah.
But going back to that time, there were so many bands, singers, so many projects. And I didn't even have the concept. I didn't have the concept early days of starting my own projects until Pyramid. So that was David Hirschfelder, myself, and Jeremy Alsop, great bass player and great composer, actually, both of them. And we were jamming, and, 3 youngsters, 18, or we were probably 17 at that stage, quite young guys, really hot players, ready to go. We were in lots of different bands together, and sometimes in different things. Yep. So getting lots of experience, and we thought, let's do something of our own, So we'd cover Chick Corea things and weather report type stuff.
Yep.
And I do remember distinctly saying to the guys, hey guys, this is great, but let's just improvise and come up with our own stuff. And if my memory serves me correct, I do, with self-respect, say I was a real catalyst for that. Because I was always wanting to create something different when I was covering other people's music as well. So I thought, gee, this is a good opportunity. Let's just do our own music. Not even covering someone else's, like fantastic stuff like Chick Corea, but you'd sort of have to keep it along the lines of that composition, unless you really did a rearrangement or whatever. And so I remember some of the improvisations being, just mind-blowing, and we'd record it on a little cassette, Walkman, and listen back and get further ideas, and a lot of compositions came out of that. And so Pyramid was born. Right. Then we got a slightly older musician than us at the time, and he still is, of course, Bobby Vinnier, and he was in the ABC show band, playing trumpet, but also percussion. He's a great percussionist as well. And Bob was like our mentor, like our... what do you call the word, when someone's like not a mascot. It's like there's a word that'll come to me in a minute, but Bobby was, the more experienced musician and kept us in a very unified sort of vibe, It was a really special thing going on with 3 youngsters just going for it. And Bobby, and being Italian, playing these beautiful romantic melodies over top of us just going crazy. It was a pretty potent combination. So for whatever reasons, there was, a falling out. Jeremy was no longer part of the band. That's another whole story. And then Roger McLaughlin, who was in Little River Band. Right. So Roger brought a whole other thing with respect to Jeremy, but a whole other thing of really solid, simple playing, and earthed. David and I were like 2 young lions going at it. Right. And we needed something earthy underneath us that was just really solid to anchor everything. And the late, great Mike Clark was in the band for a little while. He unfortunately passed away due to drug use. And oh my goodness, what another bass player there. Incredible. So Roger was like a composite of all the bass players I'd ever played with. He had everything going. Fretless, fretted, slapping, beautiful soloing, very melodic soloing, which he still does, and on to another level. But he had this really solid groove playing, which the band needed, And so around the same time, I'd been playing with Brian Brown. And Brian is an icon in music, in not just Australia, but in the world, but hardly known. And I don't feel sad about it. I just feel, isn't it interesting if you had someone like a Brian Brown, saxophone player, pan flutes, synthesizers, Western flute. He was like a luminous figure. And he started the course at the Victorian College of the Arts. Now, around that same time, he invited Jeremy and I to play in his band with Bob Settergreen. So there was, you sometimes look back and you see, wow, how pivotal that time was.
Yeah.
You're just sort of flowing through it in life in general when it's all happening. You think, okay, it's all happening and this is going on now. But gee, looking back and how much we were looked after, as youngsters, and Jeremy and I had this opportunity to play completely free with Bob Settigreen on piano and keyboards, and Brian he passed away, I think it's now 4 years. He's one of the biggest influences in my life, and he's like my musical dad,
Right.
Because I remember him saying to me, David, you just play whatever you want. And when you're given that license, and you're young and going for it, you're fearless. It's absolutely gives you the license.
Was he also there to pull you back if you went?
No.
No, just let you go?
No.
Right.
No, he'd be getting masks out and, it's on, okay. And he'd be a huge gong that he'd sometimes play and bells and stuff. And we'd have, incredible compositions. I'd love to send some to you. It's on YouTube, some from the first creative album I played on was Brian's album.
Right.
Bells Make Me Sing, it's called.
Yep.
And that was a phenomenal experience, being in the studio and playing compositions but also completely free, where things could actually dissolve any time, just from a look or a gesture.
Right.
And I know that still informs how I love to improvise.
Okay, well, I'm going to bring something up. I was watching another video of yours. You started playing, and you brought out the like a couple of brooms, and you start playing these brooms, and then you stop and you get the crowd involved with the clap.
Right.
And I think you got them to run through it twice, and then you just stood up with your brooms and you dissolved the crowd, literally with the sweeping of the brooms like this, and everybody just stopped.
Yeah.
And then you kept going again. I thought it was incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
It's so lovely to... Well, I was going to say lovely to make that connection, but I feel for me it's essential. Especially my own projects and solo pieces and solo concerts. I feel the audience becomes part of the band.
Yeah.
We're in this together.
For sure.
It's not separate that I'm on stage and you're sitting there.
Yep.
I always feel we're doing this together. There's something that can happen that may never happen again. It's a very special event rather than just another gig.
Yeah. What I thought was extra cool was like you didn't get him clapping that long, and you dissolved the crowd really quickly, which for me, I'm like, it kept me on my seat.
Oh,
If I was in the crowd, I would be going, oh, wow, that's so cool. Can't wait to do it again, I'd be watching for you to get us clapping again, Brilliant. Really good, real clever.
Thank you. And that invitation to be part of...
Yeah.
Especially improvised music can be difficult for people to get a feeling of being part of it.
Yep.
To get in, to understand and feel what's going on. So verbally we can... invite them in certain ways, just being as we are, friendly and engaging and describing what's going to happen.
Yep.
It's another thing, because later with Bob Settigreen, the keyboard player, I've known for a long time, so special. We just did an improvisation gig recently, and we do similar things, which is, we really tune into each other. A lot of the rehearsing, if you like, for improvised music is actually just getting together like we're doing and having a tea or a coffee and a chat. And bonding, And there's not much really that you have to play. It's actually being in the moment.
Yep.
And allowing things to occur
and
to connect up. And so I had a band, well, it still exists really. It didn't finish, but when I first came back to Melbourne in 2000, just before 2000, I wanted to put an improvising group together, and it was... I think I did have Brian in mind, in some way.
Yep.
But it was completely improvised music. So a whole concert would be the first half of the concert, or first set. This is with Bob Settigreen on keyboards and Everipidu. And he's an incredible bass player. Yeah. He's one of the great musicians of the world. He's quite special. Such a gentleman, a dear friend, dear friend. So that band was called David Jones Trio. It was probably one of the first times I had the courage to call something under my own name.
Right.
And so the first set would be all of us having a bit of a chat. So I'd introduce the thing. Everybody'd have a bit of a chat, and he's very, very cosmic in a good way. He's very... Oh, sorry. What? That's not going to make a sound. Very cosmic, very spiritual man. He totally surrenders to the moment, you know. He's gone. He's left the building but engaged completely, you know, with the music. So he'll come from that point of view. Bobby's so funny. Bob Settergreen, he gets up on the mic and everyone's in fits of laughter. We haven't even played a note yet. So we invite people into... We're going to play for about 45 minutes this set. It's totally improvised music. We tell them about it, you know. And then we did so many gigs like this and people really appreciated being able to get a handle on what was going to happen. And then we'd say, do you have a positive title for this piece? I know you haven't heard it yet, and we haven't heard it. We don't know what we're going to play. What about something to inspire our thoughts and our intentions? And so all these incredible titles would be called out from the audience. And we'd say, what about this guy? Oh, yeah, that's good. And then there'd be usually one of them that was like glowing. It's like Voyage Beyond the Stars or something, you know, whatever. And so they feel like they're not only part of it, they've contributed a huge part of, like we're thinking now, that imagery and that feeling. And then improvising. And then I do those cues, you know, I rehearse them 5 different cues. If I'm holding up one finger, it could be eighth notes. If I'm holding up 2, it could be, you know, 3/2 clave. And just take them through it and rehearse it. And we're already, again, laughing and we're engaged. And then 3 could be shh. You know, with 80 people going shh, with dynamics, that's, you know, and conducting them in a way as I'm playing. Oh, my goodness, you know. And then, I know it's a sneaky one. What about if I hold up 4 fingers and it's just go crazy? You know, so someone's done a solo, you know, kind of a featured part of the improvisation, and I'm putting up 4 fingers and they just go crazy. So it just engages in a very, very direct way, you know. It's lovely.
That's fantastic.
So Brian's a big part of my history. Brian Brown. And so to be now teaching there regularly, you know, 3 days a week, and actually have an office at the College of the Arts, you know, at the Conservatorium, Melbourne Uni it is a great honour. I'm actually honorary fellow there at VCA. And when I was in Brian's band, I was only 18, and he'd get me into 2 workshops, you know, and all the students were older than me, you know, most of them. So I have a huge history there as well with the teaching part of things, you know, and I love teaching. I didn't have it right, Stevie. In the early days, I didn't have it right at all. I thought it was just an extra thing for extra money. And so I wasn't treating it with great respect. Sometimes I would if I had a really good student. And I do now look back and think, oh, gee, teaching beginners was a great thing, even though it was boring. I was bored at the time. But I really highly regard it now, and seeing the contrast of, if I take beginners now, which is very rare, but if someone's super interested and I can not fast-track them so much as I can get them into musical concepts very quickly that are very deep, simple, very deep, and the technical thing can just catch up to those concepts because the music comes first, I believe.
Absolutely.
And then the technique just serves you to play the things that you hear in your head, you know, and you feel. So technique is never the master. The music is the
because
the
it
master.
was always music for you first.
You're always music first, And so, I look back on the teaching, I think, oh, okay, well, I didn't quite have it right there, but now I deeply respect it as though, you know, equal to any session or any gig or, you know, any concert situations. I want to be refreshed for it too. So I don't put too many students in the day. If I've got a few private students, it might be 3 maximum. With some breaks. So when I've got that person in the room, I'm completely with that person. 100%. And nothing else going on, you know. Whereas a little bit all over the place before. But, I'd be just putting students
putting them through to getting them running in.
Not really totally understanding and respecting the lineage. It's vital, I think, to human life, really.
Fantastic. I saw a solo video that you did. I think you called it Third Hand.
Oh, Three Hands.
Three hands?
Yeah.
Three hands? Wow. It's another one I watched a few times. Your left hand is just... And you had something going on with your... It's just the left hand and foot and then your right hand's just composing, basically. It was incredible.
Thank you. Yeah. It's one of those ostinato patterns that really works well to layer. It's like layers can happen at the same time, which a lot of people are doing with looping these days.
Yep.
And I'm not the only one doing it, of course. This has gone to another whole level with drummers and percussionists in the world, with ostinatos, meaning that there's a repeated pattern or repeated 2 or 3 patterns, and 1 or 2 of them are solo lines, meaning they're free to create things within that framework. And that one, the 3 hands, is the last 3/16ths. So 1 E under, 2 E under, 3 E under. If it's on the hi-hat, you've got your first one with the foot. So it sounds like 4. 1 E under, 2 E under, 3 E under. So the left hand or less dominant hand's doing that. And then you've other hand's free completely to move all around the kit and gradually place it together, in terms of practice, going from very simple things to very, very complex, even things of different meter. So it's in 16ths, but then you could be playing triplets. Once you've got that ostinato very strong and clear and automatic, then your mind's free to create other things on top of it. Because I don't believe it's possible on the fly to do that all consciously. And I know there's a lot of research on this too, that we actually, if we're doing coordinated actions, some of them need to be actually so automatic that we have the conscious mind focused on one thing. So if you've got 3 things going, the feet are set as a set pattern, and the left hand, say, is a set pattern, then the right hand's free. Then each one of those patterns with the right hand, it seems free, but each one has been practiced over and over and over separately. As ostinatos too. So eventually that becomes free, meaning that your conscious mind just needs to only sort out what the right hand's going to do.
Right.
And everything else is automatic. And that can change, but even that change will be to another one that's very automatic, or another placement within the instruments of the drum kit.
Very
it's
impressive.
Cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really cool. Now I asked some people if they had any questions that they wanted to ask you. So this is a question from Jason Bray.
Yes, Jason.
Yep. Oh, you know Jason? Okay,
he's
great.
Wonderful.
All right. So what are some of the major changes you've seen in music industry over the years? And what is your perspective on how these industry changes have influenced what skills drummers need to develop to be a working professional player?
Wow, great question. Well, two parts of the question too. And I've got to say, Jason's a great drummer too, a wonderful drummer. Used to work at Billy Hyde's in Sydney.
Okay.
That's where we first met.
Right.
He does a lot of different projects. Yeah, so Jason, the way that the music industry has changed in general is well known to all of us, which is that technology has helped us in so many ways and also really challenged us in other ways. So there are 2 aspects to it. Firstly, the advantages are that we can create so much so easily with computers and with... When it first started, it was, of course, string machines.
Yep.
The first thing to replace, if you like, because there is a lot of replacement going on. We have to address this. And so how do we fit it within all? I do remember that firstly it was string machines for, keyboards for strings. Then there was brass, and that was a shock that you could actually get whole brass sections.
Okay.
And then it was the drums. And the first drum machine I remember was the Roland 808, wasn't it? And it just sounded like a toy. And come on, you've got to be kidding. That's going to replace this? You've got to be kidding. But then the Lindrum machine came in.
That's it.
Came in 1982. I'll never forget it, because suddenly all my work went to half or a quarter. And you had to deal with that, rather than get bitter about it or feel, oh, gee, it's all over. I thought, okay, well, maybe I should investigate the electronics, still be an acoustic drummer. And so I got the not the Sin drums, but they're called Simmons drums.
Simmons, yep.
And so I had the ones with the really hard surfaces. And apparently it was the same material that they use for police riot shields.
Oh, is that right?
So you had to be careful blowing them because they could jar you a lot, you know.
Yeah,
but we used to sometimes mic them up.
Yep.
So you get the front of the stick, the attack. Anyway, so I did get a little concerned because I thought, oh, gee, I wonder if I have to become a programmer for drum machines. And I was definitely not geared that way, you know, in my thinking.
Yep.
But I thought I might have to for my income because most of the income was from sessions.
Yep.
Gigs were just extra, you know, it was for fun. So you didn't really think too much about how much a gig was worth, you know, where it's changed a lot now. And so I went down that line and it just didn't suit me. I thought, no, I'm going to go deeper into the acoustics. And that was around the time, you know, 1984, that I found the meditation or introduced to the meditation path. So that made a lot of sense to me. It all sort of came together around that time. And I was so glad, and I still am, that I keep investigating the acoustic nature of things, you know, of a resonating instrument, whether it be a cymbal, a drum, or a cowbell. Or once you have resonance, you can do so much with that.
Yep.
You can always mute. something.
Yeah.
It's very easy. But if you've already got short sounds, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I found. So the change in the industry then was also, rather than coming in and doing sessions for other people, whole groups were coming in and doing their own sessions. So there was much more a good thing. There was more commitment. The groups had to stay together and record their own things. So the days of the session musician weren't over, but it was modified. You know, it was changed, greatly changed. So there weren't so much freelance sessions. You know, you need to be part of the band, and that was a good thing. There was a lot more, commitment and also development of projects. What also happened was the touring became different. I think the larger scale tours always still happen because there's enough funding to make it happen, you know, or enough money from whatever source. So I do remember distinctly too, and this is relevant in terms of this question of how things change. So I remember being about 18 or 19 and I really was thinking, what if I do actually have to go to America to do the next level of things? And I thought, well, it's going to be the same as here, but just bigger audiences, maybe more money, maybe more level of musicians on a larger scale, but I was already playing with great musicians that I believe were as great as anyone on the planet. So I wasn't attracted to that side of it so much. And what became really apparent to me was quality of life. And so that's why I decided to stay here and do trips overseas when it was appropriate and a good offers, you know. And why I'm mentioning that in terms of the change globally with music was that it became more global, that you can actually release, now going forward to now, you can release something and it pretty much anyone can hear it if they're looking for it, and synchronicity can happen, that someone listens to your music and loves it. Trickier to make an income from recorded music. We know that that's really challenging, super challenging. What's to happen in future, we're not sure. We're not sure with that. But in terms of skills, yes, absolutely. What's happening on YouTube and all of the different platforms and what's available for you to be inspired by is absolutely amazing. You know, it is quite phenomenal. It can be overwhelming. So we've got to watch that, because as human beings, musicians, we've got to be aware that we do compare, we do compete, we do get inspired, but go towards more the inspiration than the comparing, because it can be very, very depressing for a lot of people to see the level that's out there, and there's so many at a high level, you know, technically. What's not always so apparent, and it is true, this is not my opinion, I think this is the feeling of many people, is that some of the videos going up of, say, drum solos, or guitar solos, bass solos, could be anything, it's towards the wow factor.
Agreed.
So we're not getting as much of the music and the context. So you'll see 2 seconds of the band playing and then the drum solo and then 2 seconds coming out. You think, well, what was actually the context of that solo it could have been completely out of context, meaning the player's not that musical. They're just shredding and going for it, and that's great. It's very impressive for a few minutes, and then. But what was happening in the music that creates the flow into that solo and the dovetailing and coming out of that into the music again, and that's not always apparent.
Yeah, and maybe in those cases it's not actually about the music at all. It's about the likes and the views and the
sure
the monetized YouTube.
Exactly,
getting
getting as many
listens
hits
and get some money out of it.
Yeah, that's right. And I understand all that because we all need to do a certain amount of that within as much integrity as we can muster, and always have the filter on, the filter of what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks incredible, it sounds incredible, what am I getting?
Yeah.
That's my question to myself. Again, not as a competition or a pulling down anyone, but I'm feeling a bit cold with this one. Mm-hmm. It feels just very frantic and there's not much music or space going on. Mm-hmm. And that's your personal opinion. That's your personal feeling. Yep. Apart from opinion, feeling.
Yep.
So what am I feeling from this? And then I might not go to similar videos again because it doesn't give me anything.
Gotcha.
There's no exchange of good energy.
Yep.
And this is now another... Have you got other questions?
I've got a couple, yeah.
Oh, great. Oh, it shouldn't take too long with this, but this is a big topic. Social media. I've only been part of it in an active way, personal way, for about 2 or 3 months, even though I've been on Facebook for 6 years, apparently. We just used to put things out for gigs, notifications. I've gone more personal with it. Yeah. And what I've seen with Instagram...
Oh, good. You're famous now.
You're on the radio.
You're famous now.
Regards from this lovely man having a coffee next door.
Yeah.
So, totally derailed my own train of thought now.
Social media,
thank you. So I've become more personal with it because I was noticing if I did put up a personal engagement or like, that I was getting more of the same.
Yep.
And I can feel and see, and I'm getting direct feedback of being an agent for good.
Yep.
Not for criticism, not for bad wishes, not for any sort of opinionated back and forth. Because I see sometimes even my friends, music friends or even other friends, getting involved in wars, and I think, good wishes, but I'll just move on.
That's it.
And political things, I don't even go there. Unless I can be part of the change, I'll just move on and give good wishes as I go. But what I'm noticing, the things I like, which are spiritual things, beautiful musical things, and things of beauty as well, then I'm getting more of that because it's actually called your feed. So we feed ourselves, we feed others, and it's visible consciousness right in front of us.
Yeah.
Worlds opening up, personal worlds, it's worlds of what's happening in our current state of humanity.
Yep.
Good and not so good, challenging. And so I'm feeling that I put the filter on, in a light state of meditation. If I'm doing the social media, of course there's the commercial aspect.
Of course.
And that's what we all need to do as artists. We need to allow our things to grow into the public arena, but at the same time just to give so many good feelings and good wishes and good comments and uplift, rather than pull down. There's just so much pulling down, and I can see it and I recognise it, and I think, well, okay, I'm not going to be part of that.
Yeah.
But compassion for people getting involved in that, that's okay, but it's actually not okay.
Yeah.
So I just don't go there. But I'm finding that that's a very big change too. The social media has really changed our perception of music too, and I'm really wanting to keep it as organic and open and loving and embracing and connective as possible, which is how I play. Why would I suddenly be different on social media and be super commercial? And it doesn't suit me, But the commercial, if it's done with an invitation and just inviting people and giving things, because we're giving all this stuff for free.
Well, that's what I like about your Instagram especially. As I was doing my research to this interview, and I got onto your Instagram, and I love it. I love watching your videos. One of the funniest ones for me is the brush ninja. When you got the hood on, and you just start off with the brushes going. But then you're explaining something as well, and then you finish it with the ninja. But then also when you're talking about your drum tech clinics that you were doing over the 2 days, you know, just the way you introduce it, and then you explain, you play a little bit, and then you say goodbye, you know?
Yeah.
But it's all so positive.
Oh, thanks, Stevie.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me.
It's
Thank
definitely
you.
not, you know, somebody blazing for the sake of blazing chops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what I've noticed... Thank you, Stevie. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed with a lot of drummers... this is true of all instruments. When we get to a certain level of technique, there's a lot there, and we don't need to display it all the time.
No.
And in fact, when Steve Gadd's a great example of this, you know, he's got an incredible facility and very, very flowing, even to the point that it looks simple when it's not.
Yeah.
It actually looks, wow, that's not much there. And it's actually, wow, it's so deep.
Yep.
I mean, that's just one example. Jeff Beccaro was another one, you know, and I'm just using two names. There's thousands of standout drummers like that. And musicians that really play always for the music first. Now, I know that sometimes I don't play for the music, but I know it too.
Yeah, well, you're allowed,
you know,
you're allowed to as well.
Exactly. And I know when there's a show part of things, entertainment part of things,
absolutely.
And there's underneath everything is the core and the foundation really of beautiful, powerful, connected music. Now, that showing of display, if you like martial arts, you know, if there's a display, it can be so incredible and so inspiring. Like a lot of the martial arts films, which I love, you know, the really good ones, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Hero, do you know Hero?
Yeah, no.
Oh, beautiful. You've got to see it. Hero, it's amazing. When there are principled core ethics involved, it's another level.
Yeah.
That when the display happens, you feel there's deep meaning and significance in it.
Yeah.
And honour. Yeah. The word honour for me is a very big thing. So there's honour within it. So that, and I often say that drumming is like martial arts seated. You know, there's a core of energy but seated, and hopefully no one's getting hurt.
Yeah, great.
But so I do love those type of films, and I use the Karate Kid, the first one and the second one, as a good example of practicing too with consciousness.
Yep. That
you record whatever you practice and record with a certain consciousness, then that's the way it'll come out later. You know, you just speed up the process, same form.
Yep.
But it's not about speed, is it? Speed can be just an emotional effect.
For sure.
It could be the same effect with one brush stroke. It could be, you know, a whole run of notes, and it could be the same effect emotionally at a low dynamic of one brush stroke, like calligraphy. Yep. Coming back to the art thing again,
yeah,
you know?
Gotcha.
One brush stroke.
Brilliant.
And it's done, you know.
Yeah.
So I think a lot about these things because of teaching as well, but also what's happening currently in the climate of music making and the arts.
Yep.
And it's very challenging, and there are so many people out there that never are seen or heard, and that's the way it is. Within ourselves, we need to come home to that and be at peace with that.
Yep. Well answered. Okay, I got one from Dave Goodman.
Oh, David!
Yep.
Dave Goodman.
Yep.
Another dear friend.
Yeah, well,
great
actually,
drummer.
Before I ask that question, we had a drummers roundtable.
I did see that.
Did you? Yeah,
I saw that being advertised.
Yeah. So we did that.
I must have a listen to that.
Yeah, it's great. One of the topics was some traveling tips.
Yeah.
And we went to Dave, and Dave said, and he does apologise about his terrible impersonation of you.
I haven't seen it.
No.
Probably just as well.
But that's Dave. He's a lovely guy. But anyway, he says, pack your own tofu, pack your own soy drink, and he says that you bring a
Cooker.
You bring your cooker and a throne. Yeah. So I just thought I'd bring that up. You can have a listen.
Cooker and my own throne.
Well, you said the cooker's in you, but you've got like a barrel throne. And the cooker's
exactly.
Inside there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So I just thought I'd
it's
bring
a little bit
first.
more weight, but it's really worth it because
Yeah.
there's some great stories about that being
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere and all the rest of the band can't find food and I'm the only one with anything to eat. But I can't feed everyone, unfortunately.
That's it. That's brilliant. Okay, so here's a question. What is the highest ideal toward which you aspire, and how do you go about its actualisation day to day?
Is that from Dave?
It's from Dave.
Wow. The highest ideal for me is absolutely to make the most beautiful connection with people in the band. I'm like a band mum.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I know I'm a bloke, but
Yeah.
Bob Sedigrid's like this too. It feels like he's got his arm around you even from the other side of the stage. So I really want to look after everyone. And I aspire to also make the audience my friends.
Mm-hmm.
They're already my friends because they've turned up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to win them over. That's just amazing that they're there. So rather than finding, followers, I like to make people true friends, like the feeling of connection.
Yep.
So what I aspire to is really, in essence, to be a connector, like a catalyst of energy, a catalyst of good connection, and I aspire that every time there's an event, it's something that potentially could change lives. Now, I know we're not like doctors that save lives, but we don't know. Sometimes we might be saving lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I always aspire to, and because of feedback too, I know that this can happen. Sometimes I've heard 20 years later, someone comes up to me and says, David, I went to this workshop or this concert and I experienced something. And so that means so much to me in terms of, for them, there was something that happened through the music that I'm an instrument for. It's not me, but I'm an instrument for something greater that can happen for people, a transformation, a shift. And I really do feel that that's the core of the arts, that the arts can shift things for people. And something can change not only for the better, but actually permanently and for a very, very good set of reasons. That there could be a new way of living, of thinking, of consciousness. That's the potential, and so I always aspire to be an instrument for that, And as much as I can get out of the way of that too, so the higher energies can work, Right. There's so many different ways to describe it. That's the feeling, and I know you're getting the feeling of that.
Yeah.
And how I do that is tune up every day. If I'm going to be an instrument, I need to tune myself, and so my meditation, my spiritual study every day. My interactions, the way I speak, the way I talk, the way I walk, the way I eat. I just really, without any tension, I want to pay attention to all those things, and even the way I breathe and look at things and look at people, that I'm not judgmental or I know what's going on, but again, this feeling of wanting to be an agent of good, as much as possible. Hope that answers the question. It's a deep question.
Yeah, totally. I think that's pretty much covered everything. Hey, and more.
Stevie, I really appreciate this opportunity, mate.
Yeah, and I also want to say I wish there was more people like you in the world, to be perfectly honest.
Thank you. There are. There are many.
Yeah.
And, can I give a visual which we won't see on this podcast, but my hand is sloping downwards. This is what the news shows us.
Yep.
This is my left hand going down, down, showing the descent and downfall, pollution, corruption, all that stuff. Chaos, really. Yep. That's what the news shows us. My right hand is doing an upward curve now, showing at the same time there's the rise of consciousness. So there are many like me, maybe not in the music field that are visible, but and even in the world, not visible people that are, because like Sam, and many others in the music world, we're quite visible to whatever extent that our career allows at this point. But there are many people behind the scenes doing great work. Spirit work.
Yep.
You could say like light workers or people of the light, meaning human beings, but really wanting to be angels, and it's really, there are many people that are contributing to the change that's going to happen. And it's happening. It's already happening.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when I say unfortunately, it's just the way it is. What we see visible is only the chaos.
Yeah. There's a lot of it at the moment.
Yeah, lots. Yeah. And, okay, there's that, but we need to now go deeper and not pay too much attention to that and let it influence the heart and the mind. To know that it's happening and know that I can be an agent of the change, And that beautiful quote, I think Gandhi or someone like that said, be the change that you want to see rather than complaining about it. Yeah. Be the change, And that's...
Yeah. Awesome. David Jones, thank you so much,
Stevie,
sir.
Thank you
Pleasure
very
to
much.
meet you.
You too.
Looking forward to catching up with you again.
Thanks for the chat.
Wish I could get to the show this afternoon, but just the time gap between here and the show.
Absolutely.
Got to get home to my family. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Cheers, Dave.
All the best. Thank you, Stevie.
Thank you, mate.